You guys want to hear the most 2023 drum beat? Here it is. It's got something for everybody. Offsets, right hand on the snare, implied metric modulation, but most of all, maybe the most unique cymbal on my kit, my beloved Meinl Smack Stack. And I happen to think Meinl makes the best version of the so-called Smack Stack, as evidenced by people like one Mr. Jarasioglu here. I'm sure you've noticed drummers everywhere have adopted the humble stack. And just for clarity, clap stack is Istanbul's word, smack stack is Meinl's, and I'll use them interchangeably. It's so recognizable, it's definitely become a thing. Like, remember Fred Armisen's comedy show, Comedy for Drummers? Or he did an impression of all the styles of drums up through the 2000s? The 2020s would definitely have smack stacks.
And there's a lot of, gimmicks and stuff on their drums.
Prompting some people to say, it's a fad.
Get off my lawn.
Like kids these days. They're all playing a similar type of beat and going for this really specific sound. Seems pretty fatty. Today on 80/20, we'll break it down. Are Smack Stacks a fad? And if they are, what's wrong with that? Oh, and also, I'll show you how to play some of my favorite clap stack beats. Stay tuned. Guys, very quickly, in this video, I'm going to be showing you some of my favorite Smack Stack beats. And if you'd like a completely free transcription of those, just click the link below the player and enter your email address in on the next page. Now, let's talk about some history. I'm not going to Google the date. Somebody invented a stand for the sock cymbal that was high enough for drummers to play with their hand. No, I'm not going to Google who that was either. But I'm pretty sure that was the invention of the hi-hat. Before that point, the sock cymbal was a thing, but they kept it low to the ground. All of a sudden the 30s? The elevated sock cymbal comes along, and all of a sudden drummers everywhere are using these newfangled hi-hats to play the sock cymbals with their hands. Horror! Okay, stand by, I better Google that whole thing. Ha! Mostly nailed it. This is from Yamaha. The hi-hat as we know it today was invented around 1930. The original hi-hat consisted of two small cymbals attached to two boards, one on top of the other joined with a hinge. And let's just check Wikipedia. Hi-hats that were raised and could be played by hand as well as foot may have been developed around 1926 by Barney Wahlberg of the drum accessory company Wahlberg and Aggie. The first recognized master of the new instrument was Papa Joe Jones, whose playing of time-keeping ride rhythms while striking the hi-hat as it opened and closed inspired the innovation of the ride cymbal. Okay, so Joe Jones and the jazz drummers start losing their mind on these elevated hats. All of which might have prompted somebody to go, kids these days with their elevated sock cymbals, it's a fad. Another one. At some point, people started playing the snare on 2 and 4. Oh wow, nothing doing on Google here. But I think it came from the blues shuffles, and musicians like Chuck Berry made it popular, then musicians from the US to the UK all started imitating it, and before you knew it, the rock beat was born. You know where I'm going. Imagine some curmudgeon of the time saying, kids these days playing the snare drum on 2 and 4, it's a fad. Should we learn a basic clap stack beat? Let's learn one of my favorites. We can see Mike Mitchell using the stack like this in some spots. And Spanky inspired me, at least, with this viral video, which I'm pretty sure was on a pad instead of an acoustic smack stack. But we can get way simpler. To the drums, Batman! Start by placing the stack in around the same place as your rack tom. That way you can hit it with your right hand on backbeats. The idea of this beat is it's like a halftime rock beat, and instead of hitting the stack with the snare drum, which some people like to do, I think it sounds really cool to just hit the stack instead of the snare drum. You can kind of do an If I Ever Lose My Faith, New Jack kind of kick drum thing to open it up. And you can do some embellishments on the hats. That's as far as I'll go for now. Back to the history lesson. So, I know what you're probably thinking. Nate, you're only showing us one side of the story. Like, what about all those things we thought were fads that actually turned out to be fads? Like Do I wade into crypto?
Fortune favors the brave.
No, I do not. But let's chart the course of the humble Zilbell. Late 90s, Carter Beauford. Everyone wanted one. The Zildjian A's, those super bright shiny cymbals, the mini splashes, and the Zilbells. Now, have you seen a Zilbell anywhere lately? What about octabands? Or rototoms? Occasionally you'll see somebody playing them to be retro, and maybe they'll come back. More on that later. But let's just say they didn't have the staying power of the hi-hat or the backbeat. Okay, but let's mess with our stack beat a little. Because one of the hippest things to do is play the snare drum not on the backbeat, but as embellishment. For beginners, just take the lowest subdivision. But for you advanced folks, you can throw in some smaller subdivisions. Now let's go offset quarter note triplet. Then you can just leave the last triplet out. Toss in a little snare embellishment. And you could also 30-second-ize this once you've sextupletized it. Remember, if you want a free transcription of these ideas, just click the link below the player. But let's first talk more history and more fads. Electronic acoustic hybrids. Famous enough now that even Fred Armisen satirized them. And of course, they made possible that crazy Spanky clip. And they were becoming such a mainstay in the Guitar Center drum-off, they had to cancel the whole thing. Just to prevent this synth pad thing from getting out of control. Next, stuff on the snare drum. This was a niche thing as early as the 90s. But it really started to take off in the early 2000s. Nate Wood and JD Beck have made it so much of a thing, it might be here to stay. Finally, stacks. As one blog says, their origins are shrouded in internet mystery. But come around 2007, 2008, all of a sudden, lots of people were putting cymbals one on top of another. And of course, cymbal companies started to oblige, with things like my Garska Fat Stack. And if I were to guess, I would say stacks probably have more staying power than octabands or Zilbells. Gut feeling, but distortion and white noise artifacts are kind of a part of the musical palette now. An import from electronica that's kind of crossed the blood-brain barrier. You hear it everywhere, from beat music to jazz to prog. And that white noise, played in a musically appropriate way, sounds so good. Off script, I think it's one of the things that made Tony Williams' ride cymbal sound so amazing. What about other stuff? Like tiny hi-hats with bells on them. Or chains. My personal hero Marcus might have started that. And plenty of others like Ben, composer of the tracks I played along with at Meinl, have adopted it. That one's so new, it's hard to tell what the future holds yet. Should we 30-second-ize some sextuplets? Okay, so the hip thing about this is to maintain the backbeat, just like Spanky. Spanky even had a phrase for it. Backbeat control, or one control, or something like that. But I assume it means not letting the backbeat migrate while you f*** with it. So we've got our straight beat, then we sextupletize by adding an offset quarter note triplet on the last triplet of the bar. Other places to start it, but this one lays really nice. Then we can take that same clave and just play 30 seconds underneath it. And just as before, we can throw in some textural variations. All of which culminates in, voila, the archetypal Fred Armisen 2023 beat. Finally, what about stuff that went out of style, then came back? I'm speaking, of course, about high cymbals. Super early 80s, with drummers like Vinny and Simon Phillips, or Peter Erskine, and any of the hair metal bands. Then, for a while, it seems like everybody was playing them hella low. Now, they're back, baby!
Yeah, baby, yeah!
So, are clap stacks just a fad? Well, they're definitely more specific than just stacks in general. It's a very specific sound, but it's also one that's pretty applicable. Like, how long have there been hand clap sounds in synthetic drum beats? 50 years? It's also going to depend on whether people feel like carrying them to gigs. Because when you get jazz students carrying only hats and a clap stack on the subway, you know you've made it. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this lesson. And just a reminder, if you've enjoyed the drum beats in this video, and would like a completely free transcription of them, you do not need to do that yourself. Just click the link below the player and enter your email address in on the next page. We'll send those to you for free. Dudes, it's been real. Always enjoy these. See you again real soon in another lesson of the week. And let's change the color here. What if we go yellow? Yellow. Yellow. I like that. What were we before? Purple? I think we were purple. We were purple, right? Was it this purple though? Maybe it was that purple. Oh, I think I want to do one more green. I'm having way too much fun with this thing, clearly. Let's learn one of my favorite. Let's learn. Play that in the outro. To the drums, Batman! So we're going to go straight beat, then we're going to sextuplize, then we're going to 30-secondize the sextupilization, then we're going to throw in the textural variations, all in one take! We should have outtakes.
Yeah, baby, yeah!